This session is presenting 5 different wine in cans. We have a variety of cans that you'll be able to taste. And before we do that, I'll give a little update on the industry, and then the producers that are here will be able to talk about their particular brand a little bit. And if you have questions, we'd love you to ask questions. Some of you have had wine in a can before. For others, it's something brand new. But in any case, we hope you will enjoy. So the last session that we just gave was all about the alternative packaging to glass bottles. And if you were here, I see some of you, I recognize you from the last presentation. We had representatives from flat plastic bottles, paper bottles, kegs, bag-in-a-box, and I was talking about cans, and that's the emphasis on this session. So if you, when they post all this, the sessions up online, if you're interested in alternative packaging, which does overlap with, of course, wine in cans, you can check that out. So a brief update. We've got a database that we've been tracking since 2017, I believe. And we track the different wine in cans that we find, as well as market information about them, the country they came from, the state, the varietal, the can size, ABV. There's a lot of information that we track. So this is an update. Last year at my presentation at WBWE, we had 860 winemakers in our database who produced 2,200 different SKUs of wine in 33 U.S. states and 36 countries. Yesterday, when I interrogated the database, we now have over 960 winemakers. And keep in mind, these are only ones that I have found. There are many, many winemakers that put wine in a can and other alternative formats that I can't track down. So the number is much higher than this. They generate 2,450 different SKUs, everything from Albarino to Zinfandel. And year over year is roughly 11%, 11.5% change in the number of winemakers we found and the SKUs that they produce. Now, this is a slowdown from other years, but I think there's a lot of factors that involve with that. The wine industry in general has slowed down. The UK has been raising prices on their wine. So there are market forces in play, but the trend is still strong in terms of wine in cans. What has changed is the competitions involving wine in cans have gotten much, much better. A great example was last month at SMV in Canada, which is one of the longest running and most esteemed international wine challenges. They operate under the rules of OIV and VinoFed, which means their judges and their judging criteria and process is very exact and of the highest quality. And so therefore, the people that submit their wines to be judged have to bring their A game. They have to send their best wine. And I can tell you that out of the wine in cans that were submitted, 25% of those entered were awarded gold. The number for gold and silver is a little bit off because I took a number that wasn't correct because, again, OIV has specific rules. But the key is that more and more competitions, whether it's DWA, whether it's San Francisco, wherever, they are judging not only cans, but alternative formats. But it indicates that the quality of the wine in alternative formats, and specifically in wine in a can, has been increasing year over year and now can hold its own against some of the best bottled wine in the world. And that is significant because it's the focus on quality and taste which is what will make this market grow and makes it continue to grow. Last year I gave a presentation and we said that taste and quality were paramount. It's even more so this year. We're seeing more single AVA wine in cans, and they're doing more interesting things with the varietals, whether it's organic, certified, low intervention. In fact, I was walking through the exhibitors before I came, and here's de-alcoholized wine, because part of the trend is people that want to moderate their alcohol content, but they still want good tasting wine. Now, I've not tasted this yet, but low or no alcohol is a trend that is growing, and it's something that you want to take a look at because, again, they're being pressed by competition to put better and better low or no alcohol wine in a can. So much more experimentation going on. And as we've always said, good wine is good wine. It's the wine, not the packaging. And as you heard from the last session, whether it was flat bottles or paper bottles or kegs or bag in a box, it's the wine quality that's going to make the first cut and give you the repeat buyer. Aside from the convenience, that may be the reason that, or other factors, portion control, et cetera, but it's the quality of the wine that makes people come back. So in our database now, we used to separate it by ABV, low nose, spritzers, mass market, and premium market. This year we added a new category for wines that have been awarded at major wine competitions. And by that, I mean not just competitions of wine in a can where everything is a wine in a can that you're comparing, but that it includes different formats. So you're comparing the quality of the wine, not just the format itself. So we're gonna work on this segmentation. As we talked about briefly, for the alternatives, more wine buyers today, more consumers want to know that you are walking the talk. And so for the alternative market, and certainly for the wine and can market, know who your customer is. I was just talking with a couple of gentlemen from Mexico, and they're interested in getting into the business. And the first question is, well, who are you aiming for? Who is your customer? What is the customer profile? Find out what works and doesn't work. The industry is willing to share their successes. Find out, do samples, do trials, find out from your consumers, your potential consumers, what they like, what they don't like. Where is the demand? In certain regions, in certain cities, in certain states, in certain neighborhoods, you'll have different demand of your wine in a can. Find out where that is. I currently track, again, as an academician and as a research company, I'm looking for where's the tipping point between traditional glass bottles and all the other type formats, including wine in a can. Now, obviously, there's a long way to go, but the fundamental issue is something like 95% of wine is consumed within a day of purchase. So most people buy the wine and drink it. A smaller segment of the market will cellar their wine, in which case it's going to be a glass bottle. But for the rest of the majority and the rest of the market, they're looking for other factors. Again, have to have the good wine quality, but then they look for other factors because they're not going to cellar it. How are you doing your marketing, which is critical? What is changing between the marketing of wine in a can versus other types of things? We mentioned there's a number of companies that do a promotion now based on the 12 days of Christmas. Well, they have a calendar, the 12 days of Christmas, but behind each door is another wine in can. So each day you can have a wine in can as a nice way to have a festive sampling of which you can't do with bottles, obviously. But one of the biggest problems that I see in the marketplace now is inventory control, which goes hand in hand with marketing. The excitement of wine in can is past. Now you have to do the basic marketing and basic business decisions that sell your product. And one of the most crucial thing is the stamped on date on the bottom. So I look at this one, and this is great because it says filled on 26/08/2023. So this is about as fresh as you can get, 2 months fresh. Wine in a can typically has about a year shelf life. And when I say shelf life, that's from the time you can it until you drink it. So you've got transportation, you've got warehousing, you've got sitting on the retail shelf. When your consumer picks this up and drinks it, and if there's no date and they don't know when it was, and they drink it for the very first time because they're interested in this format, and it doesn't just taste good, that's because it's been sitting on the shelf too long. You've lost that customer. So that becomes crucial to the wine in a can market. I've been traveling around. I was just in Houston last month, and every store I went to, it was out of date. And I bought some because I was talking to someone about it, and sure enough, it tasted bad. And it was a major seller. I won't say who it was, but I'm in contact with them to say, you've got to rotate your stock. So when it gets close to the end, do some promotional sales. Yes, you make less money on each can, but you're saving your reputation, because if you leave it sit on the shelf and it goes past the optimum date, then you're ruining the perception of your wine and for everything else. So with that, I will open it up for, I believe, Sana is next, and we'll talk about her wines, and we can start tasting. And let's see how we get yours up here. Do you know what it was called? Kingston. Why don't you start working? I'll see if I can find it. If you start talking.
Okay. Do you want me to send it to you? Hi. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sana. I am the CEO and founder of Zina. These are the two first wines that you have on the table. Zina was born during the pandemic after 7 years running in the Priorat in the Spanish region, a winery. I just found out that we were somehow like far away from new trends and new moments of consumption. And we started canning Grenache from Terra Alta, which is a region in Spain that produces mostly of it organic Grenache. And we jumped to some sparkling wines after some time when our consumers were demanding some freshness and low alcohol. And finally, we are launching the new 0%, which will be coming at the end of this year. So for now, we have 6 references, all of them organic and vegan certified. Everything we produce today, it's from Spain. And we only work in cans. We don't do any other packaging because we really want to feed new moments of consumption where the bottle doesn't fit. And we are looking for high rotation. And also, we want to introduce Zina or can wine. I think that all of us, we need, and we are in this moment where we don't have competitors. I'm always happy every time we see a new winery canning wine because people, we really need canned wine. We need our consumers to feel more confident about drinking wine from a can. And if we like it or not, our kids, children in the future will drink wine from a can. We see the new generations, most of them, they don't know how to open a bottle of wine. And we stop of consuming wine, right? So that's what we have today. We have these 6 references. We are currently in 14 countries. We introduced in the Latin America, we are in some countries in Europe, most of them in the Scandinavian, but we are happy to work in the Netherlands. So if any of you are interested in introducing organic and vegan canned wines in the Netherlands, we have our 6 references and happy to even send you, we have a QR and a presentation. It seems that it's not working, but I can get your contacts and we can, with no commitments, send you some samples so you can get to taste them. And that's it from my side.
Do we have a hand microphone? I'd like to open up, as you're tasting, that would be the first glass. The first 2 glasses are Zena's. And in case anyone has questions to ask of Sana. Is everyone has tried the first glass? So unlike other sessions, this is a very hands-on, just enjoy the wine, ask questions of the people that make the wine, as opposed to, let's say, my last session where it was more discussing.
All right, well, first of all, congratulations, and I look up to you. Did you notice that when you added more SKUs, you got more chance of shelf space, or was that part of your reasoning, or?
Yeah, well, actually, we decided to widen our number of references because we feel like there are different moments of consumption where maybe still wine doesn't fit. So when we started with the 3 still wines, which are 3 Grenache, white, red, and rosé, we found out that most of our clients were having these wines meanwhile they were having a meal. So it was more focused on delivery food and consumption with food, pairing wine and food. But then during the parties and celebrations, people were asking for sparkling wines and lower in alcohol. So we launched some cavas, like wine, we call it like vino base cava, wine-based, like the wine we use to make cava, which are lower in alcohol and sparkling for celebrations. And now that we are introducing the 0%, the biggest demand we got was from the UK and Switzerland and some Muslim countries, because we are making this wine also halal, halal certified. And it will be, for us, a marketing tool to introduce our brand in many marketing campaigns where we cannot promote our brand because we are alcohol, as you know, in social media and many other platforms, and also in some countries where we cannot promote Zena as a brand, but we're going to use our 0% and sell the alcoholic wine.
So you're expecting that the introduction will be the no alcohol wine, and hopefully somehow in those countries the brand awareness might lead to other wine.
Yeah, they will see the 0% and they will buy 13%.
Very nice, very good idea.
Hi, could you tell me, could you tell us a little bit more about your distribution networks, which countries you sell your products in, and what you're expecting for 2024?
Yeah. In Europe, or you want to know global? Okay. The first country that we got was Japan. Actually, I thought that there was a virus in my chatbot because they just texted us on our website, and that was our first country. And then we jumped into Europe, Scandinavian, so we have distribution in Finland, we are in Norway, we are in Andorra, Mexico, Colombia, Costa Rica, Guinea Equatorial, Côte d'Ivoire, Costa de Marfil, and Spain. And looking to push our sales now in the UK, that we just got a new distributor, and Netherlands, Belgium would be really, I think, good markets. But Switzerland, I don't know, they just want low no. They just want low alcoholic beverage and 0%. So, yeah. This is where we are now. And Morocco, of course. I'm from Morocco and introducing my brand in Morocco. But I have to say that I have to ship the wine in bulk to Morocco and can there because canned wines are not permitted for now. Like, canned wines are not permitted. So we have to can in the country.
Hi. Which strategy did you use to separate like canned wine or low alcohol from coolers and from, this ready to drink, pina colada, whatever, those kind of things? What was the strategy there to like have a clear separation?
I push my buyers to fit me close to kombucha. Because we are organic and vegan, and my consumers, most of them drink kombucha. And it's about the concept of well-being, right? When someone gets a wine in a can that is organic and vegan, somehow people, they care about their health. And most of them, they might be drinking kombucha. So we don't want to be with the mixers, and we try to avoid this part of the shelf life. But again, we are not in the mass market. We are not in retail. We are in travel, in airlines, and in the on-trade, because we wanted to position our brand as premium and make sure we got the rotation that, as Robert said before, in the supermarkets, you don't get rotation because people first don't know about canned wine, because the cans, they stay there for a long time, and most of them, they get damaged because the retailers, they buy cheap. They pay late. And if you want big rotations, you have to really have a big and awarded brand, right? If people don't know your brand, you might not get any rotation in a supermarket. So starting canned wine in a supermarket will take you to lose money. I did this in 2020 in Andorra, and it was a big fail, so don't do it. Just my experience. So you have to invest a lot. So it's better to go to the on-trade market and do your promotions than retail.
But that's the badge of an entrepreneur. Starting out, you're taking risks and you're figuring out how to manage those risks. Otherwise, we would all work for Coca-Cola and big companies, which would be boring. Other questions? Maybe if you want to talk about a little bit on your the second glass here.
Yeah, this is a trepat from Conca. We produce this rosé from a region that produces rosé cava as well, and we call it the Delicious. It's been very popular and had big success in between the young generations. I think that maybe young generations, they like a wine that is less wine than a still wine. So the purpose of this wine, compared to the first wine, which is a dry Grenache, probably it's our number one sales, the white one, but the rosé wine is introducing very, very well because it is less wine, it's easier to drink, and it's lower in alcohol.
And again, we found in our research that certain wine in cans are consumed based on different occasions. Whether it's, we classify one as being water-based, whether it's the pool, whether it's the boat, et cetera. We find that certain wines, let's say a sparkling, might be consumed more at one type of venue than a still wine. Sometimes it's consumed with meals, sometimes just the wine by itself. So this goes back to what I mentioned earlier, that you really need to understand your customers. You can't just throw it out there and say, this is great, it's wine in a can, you should buy it. It's much more nuanced than that to understand your consumers. For example, one of the things we found, and we surveyed from 18 to 80, after 55, there's a huge demand for wine in a can. It's not a young person's drink. There was as much demand over 55 for any of the other age cohorts because older people, older markets can't drink as much for some reason as younger people tend to want to drink. But they also have different palates and they tend to be in relationships, and one of them likes a red, one of them likes a white, and neither of them wants to drink a whole bottle at a time. So they can have their white in a can, they can have their sparkling in a can, they can have something else in a can, and that's the reason they buy it. That's what motivates them. Once you've gotten the level of good quality wine, then the other factors come into play.
Yeah, and other thing that we are doing now is that we realize that in different countries people have different tastes, right? We don't like, it's like Coca-Cola. They bottle different, you know, in Morocco, the Coca-Cola is super sweet, and then you get here one taste. So we realize that different countries have different tastes, and we are now canning for different countries, different wines. So the ones you are tasting now are made for the Spanish palate, but can be different in countries where they feel that our wine is too dry, and we can other type of wines. So this is happening, but we always keep our brand, which is the most important thing.
Is the representative here from Cherubino? No, I thought she was going to be here. We'll come back to these. If you want to come up and say a few words on the juice wine.
Thank you.
Stick around. Yeah, just in case of questions. And of course, we'll have questions because the point is to taste and ask and learn.
Hi. So my name is Pontus. I am here representing Juice. So that's the last wine that you had in the lineup. And that's actually one of the very first wines we canned in April 2022. So it's more than 1.5 years ago that it's been in a can. This is a white Burgundy from a producer called Jean-Marie Gouffins. He's based in Mâcon. And it's, to date, it's the most expensive wine that we canned. So it's a 2019 white Burgundy. So our background as a company is we are a group of Swedes who decided to start a brand within wine, and we decided to focus on canned wines from an environmental point of view, but we also figured that it was kind of the best format to use when in order to make a change with an alternative packaging. So it's kind of the format which allows you to be most playful with the design, but also that has still some sense of premiumness to it. So when we started out with a lot of SKUs. So our strategy from start was that we wanted to start from the top, kind of, to partner with a lot of wineries, winemakers, famous artists. So all the cans have artworks from artists from all over the world. This one is from a photographer. And then so we kind of figured we should kind of piggyback on the reputation of these winemakers that we do collaborations with, and also the artists. So that's how we started the first 12 months. And now, only since 6 months back, we have a new entry-level line where we don't really communicate as much to the winemaker, but it's more about us as a brand, Juice. So then we also went down in size to 187s. We are mainly focusing on the US now, and I would say all the monopoly markets, and we just entered into Japan as well. And some other smaller markets in Europe as well. But yeah, that's a little summary.
Questions for Pontus?
Maybe it's for you both. When you choose to declare like which grape or like origin, like what was best for you? Like to not go that way as the first wine, or the second part? Like, because the first one was maybe more top-notch wine, you know, and the second one, I mean, it's more flexible, right?
Yeah.
So
You mean the two
yeah,
like our
when
two
you
tiers?
don't say like
Yeah.
which grape it is or
Yeah.
the origin.
Should I start? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's very much, I think when we started, we really wanted to position the can as just an alternative format to the bottle. So that's why we really also went into the wine world. So a lot of our distributors, yet until this day, is traditional wine distributors. And to be in that world, vintages, grape varieties, regions, all of these things matter. We've, of course, learned the hard way that at the end of the day, it is a can. And that, you know, so I think in some context, it does matter, but at the end of the day, it's funny though, because when we did take it off and make the small cans where we don't mention it, you do get like, well, but who actually made this wine? Or so you can never please everyone, you know? So I think for us, it's very good to have the two. We have a premium line where we can talk a lot about the winemaker and the grapes and be nerdy, and then we have a line where we don't need to talk about it, and it's just for the convenience, kind of. I don't know if you want to add something.
Under my experience with Zina, we feel that the market is not looking for a product, it's looking for a moment of consumption. So we sell a moment of consumption. And even we want at the beginning to start with, you know, high premium wine, we want to provide the best thing to the market, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the movie, the market wants to buy cheap. And it is because we are competing against the beer. How much is a can of beer? And I had to fight with some distributors for cents. Like 40, 60, 30 cents. I'm like, are you kidding? I'm not in this market. I cannot compete because we are making 100% wine. At least we don't mix our wines with any water or any sugar, cocktails, and any kind of other beverages. So we are providing 100% organic wine in a can. And once you are in the market, you feel that the market doesn't care much about the quality. They care about that moment where they are now thirsty about wine. I just want a glass of wine. I don't like beer. I don't want to get a gin tonic. I want wine. And you have to introduce wine in this moment of consumption where your consumers don't have wine. And I have to say, they don't care much about the quality. I had to reduce the quality of the wines slowly, because the market, they are looking for cheap. And you have to be competitive as well. And you have to run your business. And you know, the numbers are quite important.
Just a question on the 187. I sort of done some figures, and your margins are quite a lot harder on the 187, aren't they? Because of the cost of packaging to the amount of wine. I mean, so is the strategy to move to 187, is that offset by thinking you can get a bigger quantities of sales, through different outlets.
I would say so. You're right. I mean, the savings you do in wine. I mean, it depends, of course. If it's an expensive wine, yes, the savings are big. But at the cheap wine, the savings you do in centiliters doesn't affect a lot the final. There are a lot of overhead. I mean, other costs that kind of eats up that margin. So I think it just opens up the possibility to still kind of get closer to a unit price that is more attractive, that then translates into bigger orders, and that's how you kind of. But you're right that the margins on a 187 would probably be slimmer. So it's it's been a lot of back and forth, but at the moment we feel pretty comfortable with the 187 as that kind of single unit format. But then again, if you look at the US, 187 is almost ridiculous. So it's hard because all the markets have very different perceptions. But in the US now, with our 187, we can kind of be at a similar price as a lot of the 250s that are in the US market. And then we're pretty happy because we feel we have better wine, a better brand, etc. So if they pay, $7 for our 187, even though they get a bit less wine, I don't think people think about that too much.
And just on the premium, I'm new to this, but the thing that surprised me most was that people tasted the wine and went, "Oh, this is actually better than I thought," because it was in a can, so they didn't have any expectation, and so that it was a surprise almost,
Yeah.
I found that interesting.
Yeah, I mean that's the. We have a head start there. I mean that's the good side of it, that people have very low expectations. So it's not that difficult in theory to wow them with the quality, but yeah.
Yeah, and following up on that, as I mentioned, we did a blind taste test here at WBWE, and one of the questions we asked was, what is your level of wine expertise? Self-described, but what is your level compared to your friends? And obviously most of the people here have a higher level of wine expertise. Nonetheless, they could not overall tell the difference. Now, there were some people that could look at the glass and probably tell the difference, but it's the perception that you're drinking from a can, and that changes your evaluation. If you are drinking wine from a can and you don't know it's from a can, the average consumer can't tell. So that illustrates why sampling is important. If you're able to sample and get people to try it without realizing it's coming from a can, you've won them over. Other questions? Okay, I'm going to shift it up just for a second. We don't have a representative here, but I want to point this out. The third can is, and they're out at booth B02, if you want to talk more about their wine. They received a gold medal at the International Canned Wine Competition this last summer. So again, you want to, as you're drinking and tasting this, you want to keep that in mind. But as I mentioned in my last session, the same winery did the Valencia wine, and this was judged a gold medal at the SMV in Montreal last month. Again, it was blind. They didn't know what they were drinking. Very rigorous points via OIV and the way they calculate and the way they demand the information and what the judges are looking for. So quite frankly, I'm going to try that because I haven't had a glass of that yet. I was unable to make it to judge in Montreal, but oh, that's a different. Again, I'm thinking, yes, this is wine, but I'm in a different mood when I want to be drinking this compared to a cab. So again, it gets back to the issue of understanding your consumer, understanding your target market, what size can you want to put it in, based on again, the types of wine and the types of occasions that people are drinking. In the United States, there are some 500 milliliter cans, which, God bless, you know, that's definitely a shared can, but it's more convenient than trying to share a bottle. Have you tried these two?
No.
No? You
No.
haven't tried this?
Oh, I was so surprised with this one. It looks like Fanta. We have, you know, Fanta. I was like, is this wine? Is it? Is it 100% wine? No, right? It's a cocktail. Okay. So, but I like it. It's sweet. I was so surprised with this one. Yeah, right?
Yeah, this is more than one can at a time is my first impression.
So it got like a gold medal in a wine tasting?
At SMB.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, wine, orange juice, and bubbles. So it's a mix.
What category did it win gold in?
I'm sorry?
Category did it win gold?
Under alternatives agriculture.
Okay.
Other questions?
Hola, buenos días. Viendo el discurso, parece que este tipo de envase está enfocado más hacia un producto de consumo de gente joven que, por lo que estáis comentando, no valora demasiado la calidad en el vino, ¿no? ¿Tenéis experiencias, sabéis de experiencias que haya donde realmente el contenido sí que sea importante? Eso por una parte. Y la segunda, ¿cómo evoluciona el vino? Evidentemente no para largas crianzas, pero sí esos 6 meses o casi un año que puede llegar a estar en la lata hasta que se compra y se consume.
Do you have a translator? Shall I reply in English or Spanish? In English? Okay. Yo, sí, luego si no te digo. So first of all, canned wine is not only for young people. That is not true. We have people who are looking for wine in new moments of consumption. So you get, that's why maybe we launched a wide, many different wines, because you have people who like wine that are willing to get wine. Meanwhile, they are maybe camping, they are in the boat, they are in a hiking. So there are several moments where people are looking for wine. And you get to see that maybe for the still wines, and when people are eating, they are used to look for quality wines. But when they are partying, they don't. This is what we realized. But it's not about the age of the wine consumers. It is more about the state of mind, I think. There are people who have been traveling around and they find out canned wine and they feel impressed about it and they enjoy it. But it's true that maybe the 70% of our consumers have in between 24 and 40 years.
Okay, if we can touch a little bit, we've got a wine canner. So if you have questions about canning the wine, now's your chance.
Hello, yeah, I'm one of those monkeys that cans wine. That's what I'm. So, yeah, I wasn't sure I was going to be talking today, but we're actually going through a funding round right now. So I've got my slide deck in my head. So I've got some insights maybe on canned wine. So I might maybe pitch you the business as well. Yeah, I think I'm thinking about the audience and what you'd like to know. I think we do a lot of different brands, and we can a lot of wine. So we've kind of see it all. So we've kind of got like maybe an opinion that we can sort of share. I think one thing that gets missed a lot is that cans are cool. You know, there's all this like sustainability angle. There was a really great article in the Guardian, which is a British left-leaning newspaper, if you like that sort of thing. And they sort of talked about the Andy Warhol-ization or something of the can. It used to be sort of a cheap bus stop, crappy thing that you'd see like a homeless guy drinking, like with a ginger beard like that. But increasingly with sort of the craft beer industry, what's happened there it's made cans really cool. And I mean, if you see like Zena's cans and Juice's cans, they're sort of pieces of art. I think that's an aspect that kind of gets missed now. Like cans are cool, and hipsters, they love it, you know? So that's sort of an interesting insight. The other thing is, we've done some analysis on where our cans end up going. You know, we do some warehousing, so we kind of see where it goes in the world. And for sure, in Spain, they talk about like Gearys, and British guys or like American guys. A lot of the canned wine ends up going to like the Nordics, UK, America, Australia. That seems to be the area that we see as like growing the most. I spoke to Ardag the other day, the guys that make our wine cans. Apparently Germany's the biggest. We don't send much there, but the reason we don't send much there is it's really like Aldi and Lidl, and that's like giant, and I'm too small for that. Maybe in a few years, if I get my investment, I can get in there. But that's giant, and if you go to any sort of Aldi or Lidl, even in Spain, you'll see cans of wine, and they're from Germany. So that's a big opportunity, but in terms of the craft sector with Germany, Spain and France has the same challenge with wine, with cans, that maybe Germany has with beer. You know, Germany's like a traditional beer country, and so craft beer, as you would see it, like the American hipsterization, British thing, you don't really see that in Germany so much. There's not so much of a craft channel, and so we're not seeing so much going into Germany through the sort of the Juices and the Zenas. We're not seeing that quite as much, and we think that maybe there's sort of a missing channel in Germany around that sort of craft cans channel. Whereas in the UK, Vinca, who they're not here today, the way they started, they went down what's called the Bermondsey Beer Mile, which is this mile you can walk in London, and there's like 20 breweries on it, and if you're still standing at the end, you did a good job. They literally went down the beer mile and just said, hey, you know, you're selling beer. Perhaps someone comes to the brewery that brought their friend who doesn't like beer. Why don't you have some cans of wine? Craft beer drinkers are like, yeah, cans are cool, you know? So it's a good place to just get that going. And, you know, it's kind of like Sana was saying, there's different moments. And at that moment, all your bearded hipster friends are drinking cans of New England IPA. Having a can of wine is not something that's so like offensive to people in that place as well. In France, any country where there's, you know, wine culture, like Germany doesn't have that sort of craft beer culture. Well, they say they have craft beer, but it's been there for like 1,000 years, you know, to be fair to them. In France, what we're seeing is craft beer is pretty big in France. You know, we do canning craft beer in France as well. And so getting cans of wine through the traditional wine channels in France, like, doesn't work. In fact, when we started canning wine, we called up some of the most innovative wineries in France, and we said, hey, would you like to can some wine? And the guy said, never call he ever again. And I said, okay, no problem. But in France, what we see is like going through the sort of the craft beer channel and like the boutique Parisian channel. There's a great brand we work with called Canetta, and you know, tight-trousered Parisian bourgeois guys are drinking cans of wine in Paris through that sort of channel, and that seems to be getting canned wine into France. Other parts of the world is Japan. I've been told that we do a lot of natural wine. That's something that we do. There's a big natural wine market in Japan, and if people are going to be, well, with natural wine, we say there's two types of consumers. There's hippies and there's hipsters. Hippies don't want things in a can. They want things to be like in an old-fashioned clay bottle, and so they don't really like that, and you get like, you know, that sort of style of people. But there's also the hipster side of natural wine, where they quite like a can, and that's kind of cool. And we do send a bit to Japan as well. From American perspective, that seems to be where the big numbers are, and you're sort of knocking on an open door there. I think from a last point from my side, just like market insights of what I see, we've got a saying which is planes, trains, and games. So we do a lot of airline tenders now. We do Eurostar, there's tenders for that. And then games is my way of squeezing music events and sporting events together. So there's large, they're called catering companies. And when the guy said we're going for catering companies, I thought he meant like bar mitzvahs and weddings. But no, he meant like, giant football stadiums and things, so AEG and things, you're kind of knocking on an open door with those guys, planes, trains, and games, and that's a good place to start. And there we go. That's stuff for my slide deck I had in my head, so I might have to pull that out the bag if there's any more questions. But
Questions? For those of you interested, yes, Los Pecaneros is looking for investors. I also just received a email from a canner in France who is looking for partners, investors. They've been doing it now for quite a while, and so they're looking to expand. So if you want to get into France or you want to get into the other parts of the world, that's something that you've got that opportunity through today.
we're the best ones, though. So
Oh, yes, because you're canning in France and you're pushing against the bottle people.
yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much. Rock and roll.
So with that, I really thank you for being here. If there's other questions that you have about cans, again, contact me. We have a free report on the study that we've done. We can fill you in on the wine in the can market that we track. Hopefully you understand that it takes a little bit more creativity. It's not just sticking wine in a can. There are a lot of moving parts, but that also makes it very fun. It's not a boring market, and it challenges you from a marketer and a winery point of view to really hone your skills, understand your customer, produce good wine, and enjoy the growth.